Hey everybody, welcome back to another little fun episode. Tonight we're sticking on this idea that kind of got started last time we talked, and that's about LARP and different LARP horror stories. Now, this isn't necessarily going to be about like, oh, I was in a LARP that got very scary because they did this plot line that was really creepy. Like, no, this is about those things in LARP where we've been like, what the fuck just happened and why did it happen? So, along those lines, we're going to be doing a lot of stories about some of the things that have just gone kind of like off the wall or taken things a bit sideways during LARP games. And some will be about organizations like Org LARP, some will be about troop games. But in general, it's all just going to be about LARP itself. Primarily World of Darkness LARP. There's not going to be a lot of talk about Nero or Boffer swords here. So, if that's the LARP you're looking for, wrong channel. So, all right, let's get started. Hey, Russ, how you doing? So I have a lot of stories about things that just went fucking haywire in my mind, both in LARPs that I've run and LARPs that I've been in.
We're going into ones we've run too, huh?
Well, I mean, all of them. Like, I think that LARP stories in general can get kind of crazy from either side of the fence. So that being said, we always go counterclockwise. So that'll take us down to Jeff first. What story do you pops into the head where like, what's the worst thing that's happened that you've seen happen in LARP that just made you go, what the fuck?
So the most standout story, I think, was already told, but not like in its entirety, and that was had a Tuesday LARP when they actually had Justin Achille out. They had paid for him to basically fly out and attend this weekend convention LARP.
I remember that
happening locally. Yeah, I know you were there, absolutely. But so we're playing, and the LARP starts out normal. Like, there's nothing crazy, dodgy, off the wall. There's rumor of a Sabat attack. So we're like, okay, it's a weekend convention thing that is part of an ongoing chronicle. And I'm like, they got to do something big. So all right, Sabat attack. We're playing a cam game. Makes sense. So as the night progresses, some weird shit starts to happen. Nothing super weird and out of the ordinary though. Like, easily could be attributed to rituals or something, right? So we're on Elysium, some shit happens, and the doors pretty much seal everybody in. And now I know there's characters in here, like I think I was playing one of them that had level 5 potence. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure we could get out if we really, really wanted to, unless they're going to super cheese it.
you
But
were
no, we
playing.
What does
really
this
did.
door
Like,
mean?
okay.
You were playing Kilgore.
What is door?
I was playing Kilgore at the time. So, yes, I definitely had Passance and a bunch of other shit, which is level 5 potence, if anybody out there doesn't know what Passance is.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the first night, I'm like, all right, nobody's trying to get out because clearly it's plot hammer, basically. We're like, okay, whatever. We come back Saturday night, and that's when shit got weird. So eventually, something happened to where during the day, everybody fell asleep like normal, and the Elysium building was basically explained like there's windows all around. So we're like, all right, so we're all gonna burn to death and whatever. And of course, not, whether there were, I don't even remember if they used like Tremere or something to set a ritual that basically blocked the sunlight from coming in. And we wake up the next night without incident. And then weird shit started happening. People were able to see outside, though we couldn't go outside, and the sky was like this weird, like purplish color with streaking like pinkish lights or something. And we're like, all right, what the fuck is going on right now? And all of a sudden, these lawn gnomes start descending on Elysium in droves.
I do not remember this.
You don't remember the lawn?
No.
It was after your fight with the Sabat Bishop, because you had that pretty awesome choreographed fight on Elysium.
Yeah.
Well, first things first, was this at a con?
This was at
CodCon. It was at CodCon, but it was the game was part of a normal chronicle. It was a chronicle that we went to regularly.
Yeah. I was playing Xavier Demont, my Venture Rook.
Yeah. The Venture Rook, and his sire was Sabat, and he was an archbishop or a bishop or something. So they'd set up him and one of the storytellers. They had one of the storytellers and him basically choreographed a little sword fight. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And everybody was kind of sitting around watching this happen. And the people who broke off, especially afterwards, when we were like, all right, so that's done. Xavier won. So basically, that fight was to determine one. It brought his character's storyline, at least up to that point, to a close, because it kind of brought his personal background to the fore and basically gave resolution.
Yep.
And after that is when the fucking lawn started just coming on and trying to kill everybody in Elysium. And there was like a handful of us that were sitting there just going, what the fuck is going on right now? And the storytellers are all proud of this, right? They're all like, yeah, these gnomes are jumping on. Justin Achilles sitting by us, and he's like, I've seen some dumb shit. He's like, this takes the cake. And I felt bad because the storytellers clearly like thought this was awesome and thought these possessed lawn gnomes would be such an awesome thing to throw at a con. And while one of the creators of the fucking game is here, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you guys were thinking. like there's a million ways this could have gone. Like, it started out the first night, like I said, with the choreographed fight with Ray. I was like, that was pretty cool. That was an interesting thing, considering the no touch rule and all that was kind of broken, but it was mutual, so it made for a good scene. And then they fucked it up with lawn gnomes and shit.
We had it pre-planned. Like, Frog came to me and was like, hey, I want to do this thing between you and your sire, but I want to do something other than that's just throwing chops, right? And he's like, he knew I was kind of into basically Kempo, and he's like, do you want to do something with like swordplay? I'm like, we can't bring swords. And he was like, well, I got some wooden practice swords. Why don't we just use those? Like, we'll just go through the whole thing. He's like, listen, I don't think anybody's to be concerned about pretending that their swords are real when it's like we pretend we're vampires. I'm like, all right, fair enough. So we spent like the week choreographing the fight scene. It went off pretty good. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I was happy to get this point where I can kind of like step out of that shadow of his sire and do other things, because that was a huge question that people had. Like, we know you have infamous sire. Your sire's a Sabbat member, a high standing one too. So we need to find a way to trust you. So this kind of put that to bed.
And it wasn't even something that just popped up. Like his character, it was probably a year or so you were playing the character before this event even happened. So it was something that was like a slow build, and they saw the opportunity to bring it and make it like a game-wide thing. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
that's a cool thing, but
lawn gnomes. Yeah,
it turned out something happened. If I remember correctly, it was the Giovanni fucked something up in the Shadowlands. Wraiths, for some reason, Wraiths were like, oh, cool, lawn gnomes. It started attacking the Vampire Elysium because of all the bad energy and the banality that was there. And I'm like, I ended up staying because I didn't feel like going out drinking. But Justin Achilles and a couple of our buddies at the time, they all left the game once the lawn gnome thing started. They're like, fuck this. They bounced.
Bluebell, there actually is a thing in Old WoD Vampire where houseplants can attack you. It's a trivia ritual. It's actually an entire path of thaumaturgy.
It's a
green path,
but it's right. But it's
green path, and there's a couple of other ones that were.
That path was mainly used in the Dark Ages too.
Yeah,
not so much in the modern
still,
era.
That's houseplants. Like, there's actually mechanics for houseplants coming after you in Old World. But
yeah, that was the wildest shit that comes to mind.
Specters and wraiths were possessing, and I'm trying to put this together in my head.
Good luck, because we don't even know.
We don't even know.
And they were attacking because of banality?
Who knows?
That's all I could put together, to try to make it make sense in my head.
Well, unless it was Gaian,
as much as possible, anyways.
The only way that would have worked is if it was Gaian spirits being like, "Aha, bloodbanes." That would make sense. Wraiths don't.
It was something with the Giovanni. Definitely something with the Giovanni.
Yeah, it was something with the
Giovanni ruined everything.
Yeah, what?
That was, I have a lot, but that's the big one. Most stand out.
That's the one that takes the cake. All right.
That is the one. I have a couple bad ones, but that one takes the cake.
I don't have anything as good as suddenly possessed lawn gnomes.
We gotta start strong.
Why are you making me go after that, asshole?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so most recent one that comes to mind. Ray and I were running our Sabbat game for One World. And I got asked to step up because I was the HST of the game and help run the Sabbat section of Blood and Ice that year, which is what Midwinter used to be for One World, and then it became its own con because reasons. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm down. Let's do this. Like, who's the H of the H's when it comes to this?
Oh, is this last one? Okay, yeah, I got stuff on this one. I was at both of these. I was at.
Admittedly, I thought it was going to be a good thing because, we were new STs to the org, new STs to the org for Sabat, and I'm like, it's a really good way to get our game's name out there. The two of us can run some good scenes.
It was something.
And, give people more of a reason to come visit us.
It was something.
And, grow our player base, and that'd be great. Except, I then got the plot.
For those, I'm just going to pause here really quick. For those who aren't familiar and weren't at this Midwinter, I know, Russ, you were. Yeah, you played. This is a fucking trip. Please continue.
So I start asking, hey, what's the plot? What can I help with? Where can I help? And initially they're like, well, we need somebody who's not afraid to take a red pen to character sheets. And I'm like, give me literally a bunch of red Sharpies. I got this. Because I am not an ST who's afraid to say no.
That being said, a red pen, for those who don't know, in an org play, especially one like OWN, when you go from one game with your character from your home game, they can do what's called red penning. They basically outline stuff in your sheet that they're not going to allow into the game. It can be for balance.
Or things that just don't work the way you think it does.
It could be for balance issues. It could be for it doesn't make sense how you got that. Or two, you shouldn't have this at all. Like mummy relics.
Yeah. No, we had that's another thing we can discuss.
That's kind of the red pen process. You basically go through the sheets and go, here's what's allowed and here's what's not. Here's what isn't is red penned. So go ahead.
So I ask what's the plot because, I obviously want to help with the plot too because plot. And there's, 12 of us that are going to be running this because Midwinter is huge. There's always a bunch of fucking players. And I find out that they are pitching things to the Ravnos Court. I'm like, oh, we're going to have Ravnos stuff. Okay, cool.
We did have a ton of Ravnos stuff that Midwinter, though.
We did. There was a bunch that was not only just for Sabat, but it was also for Cam.
They had the 4th gen
and
Ravnos.
The werewolf shit actually wound up involving that too.
Yeah.
No, you didn't have any red pen stuff, Russ. Surprisingly, a lot of the people from out here didn't have a lot of red pen stuff for Sabat. Imagine that.
Yeah.
But so they were talking to the Ravnos Court, and I'm like, okay, why are we talking to the Ravnos Court? Well, they want to do a bunch of Ravnos stuff just across Blood and Ice. Okay, cool. So their idea was we were going to take the entirety of the Sabat that showed up there and take them back to Enoch. Mind you, I am not the H of the H's. I cannot look at this and go, no. Mind you, the org toned it down. The Ravnos Court was like, okay, you can't actually take them back to Enoch. But we can work this in with the Ravnos plot that's going on. So the STs who were not stuck in check-in, being me, Ray, Carrie, Anthony, got asked to portray the antediluvians. And immediately I called Malkav because Malkav. I literally accidentally had a Malkavian tattoo on my shoulder. So I went, okay, I'll take Malkav, and I know right now Ray's going to want Salat. There's no question in my mind, he's going to want Salat. So he got Salat, Carrie got Anoia, and we had literally, we had enough STs where we had all of the antediluvians. We even had, Hakim.
Yeah.
And we're thinking that, they're the Sabat. This is going to suddenly, very much so, turn into just combat the whole time. And then they can wake up and we can move on and do other things. No, this is not what happens. Not a single one of the Sabat players looked at these antediluvians and did a goddamn thing about them. As a matter of fact, I had an entire flock of Malkavians following me all weekend.
Yeah.
Going, Mommy Malkav, Daddy Malkav, and I'm going,
So
yes, my children,
about
come
that
to
story
me.
that hurts my fucking soul.
Beyond the fact
And
that
that's my feeling.
beyond the fact that it was okay, we're gonna give him this supremely powerful chemistry level 9 fucking power that makes them firmly believe they're back in Enoch. But they're gonna also get things from the antediluvians, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every one of us had a token.
Right. So they're supposed to get stuff from them, and I told them, like, listen, Salat's not giving shit to anybody. And like, why not? I'm like, because they're not worth it. They're not worth it. Like, none of them is worth giving a token of Salat to. So they're like, well, let's see if anybody impresses you with their celebrating treatment. Like, they shouldn't, because they should hate everything I exist for. You know, the Sabbat, right? The Sabbat all
That's
wanted to
the
talk
way
to
it
the
should be.
Antediluvians. People kept on coming to me to talk to me for wisdom, and I refused to talk to almost anybody. It was
He
ridiculous.
was also literally the only person wearing actual human clothing. He was not in costume, except he was in costume the whole time.
Because I wasn't told, that I was going to be doing this until I got there. So
Yeah.
I'm walking around
Sorry,
at
it was
Salat,
meant
and people are expecting me to be like the pacifist, and I'm
Beep boop.
the most, the most friendly of the antediluvians, the good antediluvian, the guy who's on Golconda. And I was like, let me tell you something. If he ever was on Golconda, he wasn't there forever. And even if you are on Golconda, you're embracing both sides of your nature. So you're just as nice as you are bad. So Salat was not a person to just be like, oh, well, you'll teach us all the things we want because we're seekers of knowledge and you understand that. Like, no. Do something to make yourself worthy of it.
Well, first off, I would have gladly died because I would have jumped. And been
Nobody
like, you don't need
did.
to throw chops. I would like,
I
you don't need
know.
to throw chops. I gladly die because I
Like,
died fighting
Ray
the
and I
antediluvians.
legit sat there one night after it, before we had to go to Cam, looking at each other and going, if Jonathan and Narada were here, they'd both be dead right now.
Oh, that's such a
Because they would have looked
wyvern.
at the entirety of the spot, including the fucking Ultracons, which there was an inordinate amount of Ultracons there,
Yeah.
and been like, what the fuck is wrong with literally every single one of you?
Yeah, they wanted to talk to the
God.
antediluvians.
You're all fucking heretics!
They wanted to talk to the antediluvians. They didn't want to attack them. And it's like,
Well,
bad,
admittedly,
like-
Carolyn's character was a little wary because I kept purposely going toward her, and she'd just be
Little
like,
wary.
another reason to go away.
well, so here's the issue that was a huge clusterfuck in my mind was, one, the fact that we were doing it.
Yeah.
And two, I'm like, cool, they're all Sabbat. Why would they stay here? I would try to leave. Like I
Why
would
would
have
they want
gone.
to
I would have
stay
gone throughout the second scene. Like, all right, we can't take them. Let's take out some of their kids while we're here, right? And maybe we can get
Yeah.
stronger off of that blood, and take one of them on occasion. Eventually, depending on how long we're going to be here. We don't know if we're trapped here forever or what the deal is. But then you also have out of game knowledge, right? People are like, we know it's just a con game, so
We're just here to fucking roleplay
Right.
or throw chops.
so
But they
Dumb
actually
shit.
legitimately wound up getting items out of it.
yeah, that they've got to bring back. The problem with that is that you had all the big players with the big sheets basically bully
Sniping 'em.
the smaller characters into taking their
Yeah.
shit. And it was like, all right, well, for me, I was like, that character got that thing. It's theirs to look into. It's like, no, I need to look at this. And like, people would just take shit, just add more stuff to their pile of awesome. It's like, what the fuck? What pissed me off about that whole affair was, before they went to this place in Persia or wherever, India, where it was they were going, one of the Ultracons came up to me and said, hey, we want to do a ritual. Can we do that? I'm like, sure.
Sure.
What's the ritual? Well, it's going to be before we left and got to India. I'm like, I'm not really, like, one, your travel buff is going to run out. You're not going to have the benefit. So you can do it for role play. Well, yeah, they're all just role play scenes, rituals, really. I'm like, all right, then I have no problem with that. And I go and tell the guy, I'm like, listen, any major buff rituals you're casting, I need to approve. And they took him to this guy. All the Ultracons went to this guy who apparently has some bullshit ass fucking ritual where they all got Potence 5, Fortitude 5, all this crazy shit. And they come back to me and I hear one of the STs go, hey, these Ultracons have all this shit. They said you approved it. I'm like, what is it? Oh, they pulled some rituals. I'm like, yeah, they're going to do some roleplay rituals for like, dedication and all that. Like, no. They did a shared strength type ritual and got all this crazy shit. I'm like, I didn't approve that. So I walk over to one of the people. I'm like, hey, tell me what rituals were put on you and why. Oh, well, the guy said out of game that he couldn't see letting all the Ultracons go without buffing them with this ritual. I'm like, no, that's not what I approved. Like, you asked me for specific rituals, I approve those specific rituals. You don't just get the carte blanche, take everything awesome out of the book. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to do that. So I went and hunted down the guy. I was pissed. I was furious. I was like,
if no one's ever seen Ray mad over there in chat,
I hunted this guy down.
I saw it and went, I'm stepping out of the way.
I hunted this guy down. I'm like, listen, I bent the timeline so that these Ultracons could come to you and do some roleplay rituals because they're afraid they're going to die. And I hear you buff the shit out of them. Well, yeah, that's what I would do. All those rituals had to be approved by me. Well, I'm a sub this or that or whatever. I'm like, I don't care. You're not an ST in this game.
Fucking subcord.
I'm like, you're not an ST in this game. I'm a demon subcord. I'm not doing demon shit without fucking approval or ST's okay. So you need to come to me and ask me what you were going to put on there. And I told them flat out what they could have and what they couldn't have. And you gave them everything they couldn't have. And he just started arguing with him like, it's not even an argument. We're done. Don't ever do that in a game I'm running again. Or I'll kick you out. And I walked back to the game. And the shit show just
Admittedly,
continued.
he did complain to me afterwards, and I looked him dead in the face and went, Ray was being nice to you. I would have torn up your sheet.
It was bullshit. I've been like, that NPC you're playing, it's dead. Congratulations. I hope you enjoyed it. It's gone. But and that whole scene with all the interleavings is just such a fucking...
I still can't believe that not a single fucking Sabat member was like, I'm gonna jump. Or like, didn't even go off to go talk about jumping until 2 days later.
I did fuck somebody up, though. I can't remember who it was. Was it Hakeem? Or Seth?
Yes, because no, it was Hakeem because I was playing Hakeem. And that was you versus me.
Yeah. Some shit was said that I didn't appreciate. And people were like, oh, he'll just bow over and take it, right? I'm like, no. Here we get that flaming sword of righteousness. Have a fucking day.
And that was the point of having that happen. Was so that people would see that as much as people are like, oh, you know, Salubri are all passive and shit. No, they fucking aren't.
Yeah.
And they aren't this blooded by the code bullshit. Like, literally, that was the one thing we were able to sneak in there, was the blooded by the code is bullshit, and stop it.
Yeah, you're Sabat. You don't get fucking blooded by the code. It was just a fucking joke.
Or blessing with a name or anything else cool that the fucking Salubri got back in the day.
Yep. So for me, the one that really jumps out on me right now is...
So you can't take that one, haha.
I'm not taking that one. I actually forgot about that. Like, I buried that memory.
How did you bury that?
I just did. Because that was the Blood and Ice that I quit. I was like, I'm fucking done. I got so pissed off in that Blood and Ice. That Blood and Ice was just a stress simulator for me because I walked in. So in the org I was playing this Asimite Vizier, and I had been for a couple of years. And it was like an identity crisis because in the org, the PCs of the Asimites, we had all three castes in the Camarilla. There were only a couple of Viziers. We had sorcerers, and we had warriors, and we had Viziers. And all the sorcerers were taking over all the Viziers' jobs. Like the Viziers that would, basically lead the case and do all the politics. All the sorcerers did that because for a long time, the Midwest, they had no Viziers.
There were no Viziers.
So I come in playing Vincent, and I've got off the bat, I'm like running out the gate with like a former seneschal of Chicago and all this other shit. Under Adventure Prince, I had a really good political clout, but I was never allowed to politic anywhere else because the sorcerers were doing it. And then I was like, okay, well, if I can't politic and be allowed to do clan maneuvering, let me go with the warriors on a mission. I'm like, I've got fleetness, Manhit Dune, some other shit. And the warriors like, we don't want you there. You'll get killed. I'm like, I'm literally like 2 points from Aegis. Like, why? Okay, so what do you guys want me to do? You're saying I can't politic, which is my whole purpose as a caste. I can't do research, another purpose of mine, because the sorcerers are doing both of those. And I can't go out and commit any, like rectify any violations of laws of Hakeem because the warriors say no. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, you tell me what you want me to play. And it just got so frustrating. I was like, I just broke. I was like, I'm fucking done. Like, I seriously broke down and I was pissed off. I'm like, you guys aren't letting me play in any avenue that this character is supposed to be good at. That by canon you guys are supposed to have these guys do. You're not even letting me touch it. Like, it was a bunch of bullshit. Because that morning, before all the demon shit went down with the cam, we had a meeting between the entirety of the clan, and we had some people there from the mountain. I was one of them. There were two of us. And we were talking about the direction for the clan for the Asimites as a whole. Like, are they coming back to the mountain? Or what are we doing, essentially? And the head vizier of the the Schismatics was there, and him and I constantly butt heads. Now this guy's got like 8 years on me in XP. I didn't give a shit. So when it came down to us having a talk, it's me, who's speaking for the Loyalist. We've got the leader of all the fucking sorcerers in the schism. We have the leader for all the viziers in the schism, and then like a representative of the warrior caste. And I literally, it's all of us button heads, and me and the vizier are going at it, and a subchord comes in and goes, "I need you to, can you please just not role play?" And I go, "Why?" Because we want the smaller sheets to kind of have a chance to role play and hear the voices heard. I'm like, "I am one of the smaller sheets." He goes, "What?" I'm like, "Here's my sheet." He's like, "I thought you were like a 10-year-old character." I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, how are you getting like this so high up in stats?" I'm like, "Because I've done shit. Like I've gone to Cordlandia. I've met Urshel Gee. I've fucking been to the mountain. You know, I have the clout as a character because that's how he's been played." Well, we still want other players to get a chance to talk. I'm like, "They can. I'm here for the Loyalists. Like, let them hop in. Let other viziers have a voice, but it's Marwan that's taking over all the meetings, the other vizier." He's like, "Yeah, well, you know what? Regardless, just do me a favor and just step back out of all those scenes. Let the new players get in." I'm like, "All right, dude, so I can't roleplay. Awesome, thank you." So that's why that Blood and Ice was fucked for me. But that's not my story. I just went off on a tangent there. I'm sorry. My story is about a different org.
Oh, God.
My story is about MES.
Oh, God.
Mind's Eye Society,
God.
also known as the Camarilla. Yeah, it was bullshit, Russ.
Yeah, that's why we left early, Russ.
So when I took like a 2-year break or something like that from OWN, and we played MES for a while.
It was a year. It was about a year that we were.
I got involved in Mind's Eye Society. I was playing a Tremere and a Camarilla, and I had made a Gangrel anti-tribute Sabbat, City Gangrel Sabbat. I was on like Path of Feral Heart or something like that. And yet in MES, you have to get approval, even as Sabbat, from like major higher up storytellers to actually be on paths or to have anything else for Sabbat. The way MES works is you have a local storyteller, a domain storyteller. This domain storyteller handles all the different genres of games in that one area. So like in Chicago, we have a domain storyteller for all the Chicago area games. He's above each venue storyteller. And above the domain storyteller, there's a regional storyteller who's over the Midwest region. And above that, you have your national storyteller. So it's a very high tiered place. And to get paths in a Sabbat, you have to go up to regional storyteller, and then they pass it to the sect storyteller who says, okay, yes or no. You have to give a background, all this other stuff. Which is kind of good because it makes sure that you know how to play the path you're going for, and they make you justify why you want to have a path. Now, MES works off of the BNS rules. The BNS rules basically say that everybody starts at Humanity 5. Right?
Regardless of what sect you are.
Unless you get approval to start on a path, which I assume most Sabbat members will do. Otherwise, I assume most Sabbat members will sack some of that humanity because it doesn't make sense to have a Humanity 5 Sabbat vampire, right? Unless you're fresh new, should be Humanity 5. So I go down to MESCON. I fly down to Houston, Texas, and it's like somewhere like in Austin or Houston, one of the two, and I play through.
Austin.
Might have been Austin. I don't know. It's irrelevant, really, but yes, it's one of the two. So I play in the CAM game. I'm playing my Tremere Prince, which was a lot of fun. I was a Prince of Chicago. It went pretty well down there. I basically disgraced an entire Venture lineage, which was awesome, and made them pledge allegiance.
That was one of the highlights of that weekend.
Right, but then we played Sabbat on like the second night, and I was all amped.
That was all you.
I was all amped to play Sabbat. I'm like, I want to see how these guys play Sabbat, right? So it's my first time playing the character, and I'm playing this City Gangrel grifter who's on Path of Feral Heart, and I'm all about the sword. And while I'm down there, I run into some other Gangrel to tribute. Now, I have a merit that in the BNS version basically gives me Krynos. I can go into Form of the Beast, essentially. So when I pop Shape of the Beast, I go into like a Guru Krynos form. I get massive bonuses out the ass, which was awesome. Cheesed a little bit, but it was still fun. But so I'm down there. I nearly get into a fight with one of the Gangrel because she's a country Gangrel, and she's like a hippie chick, and she's like moderate humanity, and she's talking about how we need to basically get integrated in society and a moral society. And I'm like, I'm Feral Heart going, what the fuck is wrong with you? We almost got into a fight about it, but we kind of met each other eye to eye, and then we go about the rest of the game, and the game's going okay. It's not bad. But you get the feeling like if you go as a veteran LARPer to newer games, you get that feeling, where you're like, you are all so new that you kind of don't all know all the backstory to all this stuff, and that's cool. But let's just see how this goes. So that's kind of the waters I'm treading here. Well, we find out that a local like archbishop or something, or a priscus, had gone missing, and we get a bunch of people. We get 2 Sabbat Inquisitors, myself, the other Gangrel, and some other people to go kind of check it out and see what's going on. So we go to this farmhouse, and on the edge of this Black Forest, and I have Gru lore, which is a rare thing, but I'm like, hey, I'm especially going to call him Gru, is this Gru territory? And he's like, well, kind of on the edge outskirts, but there's something funky going on. So we track it down, and we get this discussion. Apparently what it was is some shapeshifters of some kind came in, kidnapped this individual, and dragged them into the forest. And we're like, all right, we need to go get them. And the Inquisitors go, okay, cool, that's fine, it's our show. And we all sit down at this table in the house, and we're in this, like, on this massive banquet hall table, and we're getting introduced to all the people who are now with us and trying to take over. And we have 2 Inquisitors that are trying to run the show. Both of which are Lasombra. One of which is on like Path of Night. And I'm like, cool.
Which is Lasombra.
Right. And we're like, all right, because the first thing is like, who's on a path at this table? And the majority of us raise our hands. I'm like, all right, who has humanity of like, 3 or below? A couple people raise their hand. Who has humanity 4 or higher? And the other Inquisitor raises their arm. He raises their hand. And I just kind of tilt my head, and I'm like, out of game, I go, you're Lasombra. And she goes, yeah. I'm like, you're an Inquisitor. She goes, yeah. What's your humanity level? She goes, 5.
How?
A humanity 5 Sabbat Lasombra Inquisitor. Now, I asked, I'm like, why are you on humanity? And she goes, well, because you have to start on humanity. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you just have to write a thing, about why you're on a path. And she goes, well, yeah, I wanted to play a new character. I'm like, well, that's cool, but you shouldn't be an Inquisitor then. Like, you need to be experienced to be a Sabbat Inquisitor. They don't just grab new embracees and throw them into the role. And she goes, that's what happened with me, thank you. My sire brought me in. I'm like, that's not how it works, though. Like, that's...
being Inquisition is not...
Right,
hereditary.
You're not embracing the Inquisition. There's a lot of like hoops you have to jump through to get in the Inquisition. She's like, you know what? That's my character. You don't get to say it. I'm like, that's legit. That's legit. Fair enough. You got approved. You're playing this character, Humanity 5, Lasombra Inquisitor. It's the way you decide to play it. I don't get to say you're 100% correct, but I do get to say on my in-character reactions. And she's like, well, you do what you're gonna do. I'm like, cool. So we're sitting around the table. And so she's like, well, we should just find out who it was, and let's just rescue the missing individual. I go, yes, and we destroy who dared touch them. And she's like, well, we don't have to do that. And I looked at her, I'm like, excuse me? She goes, we don't have to necessarily do that. I'm like, yes, we do. We're Sabbat, they threatened our territory, we destroy them for threatening our territory. And she's like, I don't agree with that. So the argument starts to escalate, finally to the point where I'm like, you know what? Fuck this, monomacy. You are too weak to be Sabbat, and I'm going to call you from the herd. And the ST run this scene goes, oh, whoa, we don't need to do this. I'm like, yes, we do. You've got a Humanity 5 fucking Inquisitor over there telling me that we're not going to destroy us, an enemy of the sect who has harmed us and threatened our territory. He goes, what path you on? I'm like, Feral Heart. He goes, what rate? I'm like, 4. He goes, okay, carry on.
Game on.
So we get it down, and I go to her pack priest to let him know that, hey, I've declared monastery. I want you to witness this, and we're getting another pack priest out here too. Essentially, what it comes down to is they basically end up de-escalating the situation out of character. Like, well, she's brand new to Sabbat. Let's not kill a character. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like I'm gonna kill her if we go monomacy. Well, we only want it to be the first blood. I'm like, no. You're dead. You're too weak. I'm removing her from the sword. Well, that's kind of an asshole move. I'm like, no, she flat out told me she knew what she was getting into when she's played the Humanity 5 Inquisitor. Either she puts up...
Lasombra Inquisitor.
Right. Either she puts up, or, she backs down, declines the monomacy, I gain the status for a Inquisitor being afraid of me, and she goes about her way. Or we do the monomacy. So essentially, she backed down. Because apparently they tried to say, oh, she didn't understand the rules and all that. I'm like, but she's been playing this game for how long? I've heard so much about this particular person out of character, who was also playing our pain in our ass in the Tremere side of things.
Right. And then it comes down to, why is she an Inquisitor?
Right.
If she's new and doesn't know how to do this, why the fuck is she an Inquisitor?
That was ridiculous. So that's my horror story. It was just like, I can't believe this. And then it was like, fine, you want in-character consequences? The moment she gave me a reason, I was like, I jumped on it. You're done. I'm
Yep.
killing this character. And then it was like, oh no, I don't understand. I'm like, we just had this conversation about how you did understand. You know, what's
You
the deal?
cannot have it both ways. Did you or didn't you?
And that really, honestly, that interaction is one of the big things that soured MES for me
Oh, I know. I was getting the text messages.
because I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I realized over the course of the weekend there, playing my Guru, my Wendigo Arun, playing my Tremere, Prince, playing this Gangrel tribute, and then I played my Nosferatu when they did the Mirrors game.
Oh, MES in space.
Yeah, the Mirrors game. That MES was. It seemed like there was a lot of people who couldn't handle the pressure of knowing the genre that you would find in OWN, right?
Sounds like a dumpster fire to me.
It kind of was. I mean, there were some good people in
That's a way to
MES.
say it.
There were some good people. Like we ran into some people that were cool.
I'm
ran-
still friends with some of them.
We ran into a lot more that seemed cool, but then just would flip on the a dime, just would just turn on you, which we found in
Right.
OWN too. So like it just seemed weird
It
because
was like high school Mean Girls turned up to 11.
well, not even that. A lot of times I felt like people were trying to find a reason to be upset or be offended. Like it was just you had to walk on eggshells, and it didn't make any sense to me. Like I'm here to play a game. I've been playing this game for too long. I'm not here to fuck around. Like I'm here to have fun, enjoy myself. Like when I fucking made that Ventrue get bent over the table in front of his entire bloodline, I bought him a drink afterwards.
Yeah,
Like-
that's how you do it. It's
Right.
like when you kill a character, you buy them a drink afterwards to say, "Hey, no hard feelings. I'm sorry."
Right. It was an older dude. The guy was really cool. It's just that he overstepped his bounds and essentially threatened a prince. So I made him eat his words. And so after I reamed him from his entire clan and made a deal to fix it, after the game, he and I'm like, hey, you want to get a drink? Like, I owe you a drink for the shit I just butchered through. He's like, oh, yeah, that's sure, man. That's new. I'm like, really? Is it? Like, because where I'm coming from, that's kind of standard practice, Like, if you fuck someone over that bad, you kind of give them a drink, or at least, like maybe like, hey, man, at afters, I'll buy you a Coke, or, I'll buy you like a burger or something. They kind of smooth it over,
And show them like no hard feelings out of the game.
Right.
It's just an in-game thing. Let's go have a beer and bullshit for a
Right.
bit.
It's just an in-game
Exactly.
thing. But a lot of people in NES took it out of game. A lot of them did.
Oh yeah.
I got another fun story that Baron Pawnbroker will remember because this is from years ago. My first online actual vampire game experience.
Ooh.
Okay.
So we're playing, and it's based in Texas. I don't remember what area of Texas. Maybe Chris will remember and put it in the chat. But we're playing, and I'm playing this Lasombra. I made it was the first iteration of the Filth. Yes, it was.
The Filth.
It was her character. This was it was her handle name, but she ran the game basically.
Okay.
And
Galveston.
Galveston.
Texas.
That's right. We were in Galveston, Texas, and it's online. And this was before Discord. It was a web page that they had made.
Oh, like
that
a
was
forum thing.
specifically
Yeah.
for their game. Yeah.
God,
And
we're
it
all old
was
when
actually
roleplay
really
was
cool
done
for a
on
long
there.
time. Like I think we played for a good 6 to 8 months before something happened that I was like, what? So we're playing, right? And I'm playing this badass Lasombra, and he's not that badass. I got like Potence 2, Obtenebration 3, and Dominate 2. Like I've been playing for a couple of months.
You
but
got a good spread there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, no,
respectable.
it wasn't a bad spread at all. But I'm by no means a big dick swigging Lasombra. But you know how I roleplay.
Yeah.
I was a big dick swigging Lasombra. So she's playing this. The storyteller is playing this. I believe she was a Salubri, but she was like humanity of like 8 or something ridiculous, and she'd used entrancement on me. Well, I play that shit to the nines. That's just how I roleplay. And the character through entrancement, because I was entranced for a year and a day, so he fell in love with her. And
you
the
too,
role playing, right? And it was like the role play was awesome. And it wasn't even like fucking ERP or anything. It was like actual legit like role play. And we're getting about 6 months in, and she's starting to do things that, because I'm on Path of Night and she's on Humanity, I am seeing is like slowly starting to break this connection we had. And then something happened where she got found out that she was such high humanity, which I was trying to keep on the down low for her because, again, entranced, quote, love.
Right.
And they sent in some Templars to kill her. And I'm at her house when they show up. And I'm like, fucking Shroud of Night, Arms of the Abyss. We're fucking throwing down. I don't give a shit if you're a Templar. I'm gonna eat your souls because you're coming after her. It turns out, like, she knew they were coming, and because she was such high humanity, she avoided combat at all costs. She staked me with a remote control.
What?
What?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the part that I said. I was like, what? A remote control, like the thing you change the TV with, the plastic thing. She's like, yeah, you get staked. I'm like, how the fuck do I? Is it wood? Like, is there wood underneath? Is it like a secret little thing that your little sneaky ass did? She's like, no. As long as anything pierces your heart, you can get staked. And I'm like, no.
That's not how any of
That's not how
works.
that shit happened. She's like, oh yeah, it says it right in the book. Anything that pierces your heart. And I'll flip to the page, and I'm like, no. Reread that. It says anything wooden that hits you in the heart. And she was like, nope, that's not what it says. And I'm like, I got it here, lady. It's fucking right here. And Chris is there. There's other people and shit. And we're all like in this chat room, and I'm trying to explain. No. I'm trying to keep it cool because she's brought the game, and
Right.
And I'm like, it's a remote control. I shouldn't be staked. And she's just was like, yep, no, anything to the heart. And I'm like, so if I have my sword and we're fighting, and I make a hole in your chest and put my finger in your heart, are you staked? She's like, yep. I was like, cool. I'm done. I'm staked, guys. Sorry.
I would have made.
She's like, it's cool. You can. She's like, it's cool. You can make a new character. And I was like, it could, but no.
Sorry. Would have made
out.
his niece, and I would have just walked around fucking staking people with
Oh,
my finger all
my.
the time.
Other than that game was
Why that
really
was
fun.
stupid.
And she was a really cool person. But when she didn't budge on that, I'm like, no.
Right.
I'm out. I can't even.
That's brutal. So
Right.
Crescendo.
I have one, but I see what Tiff said. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anti-campaigns never end well. Actually, I disagree. They usually don't end well for Sabbat games because either the pack doesn't play their cards right, or the ST is like, now it's the world against you and you die. So that really is a give and take. You got to really have goals in mind. And whenever Jesse and I ran Sabbat for live action together, we only had a handful of deaths, but that was only because they did really stupid shit. The game itself,
or they had some really unlucky chops.
Right. The game itself went very well. I've played in a couple Sabbat games where I just had a blast.
Yeah, I've played them too. I love Sabbat.
I had my Zanisi for 3 or 4 years, I think. What was it? Something like that, Jess?
4 years,
4?
I want to say.
And he only...
because we left about 2 years ago, and that was 4 years after.
Yeah. So in him, I
marked time with that.
I only got rid of him because I retired him. When I left the org, essentially. So
same reason I got rid of my Bruin.
They can go really well. But Jess, you had another story.
I do. This was 12 years ago.
Magma and Rockford, Sunlight.
Oh no, we'll get there eventually.
It wasn't Sunlight destroyed the bar. It was everybody literally picking up motorcycles, throwing them inside.
Well, and it was also the stupid face beam crap.
Eye of Unrelenting Fury. That was just stupid.
Unrelenting Heaven, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
That one. Stupid face beam crap. You were the one who ran that scene. You can tell that story later.
I'm not telling you a story. I'll try to block that memory out.
So 12 years ago, when I was but a wee LARPer. Okay, I wasn't that wee. It's my first game in One World by Night. At this point in time, I was engaged, living in Chicago, above the cafe and bar I worked at, with my fiance. He had a character in One World. And we found out the pre-midwinter party was coming to us because they couldn't get the hotel for that Thursday night. So he asked, he's like, hey, this LARP group is coming in tonight. Do you want to make a character? That way we can bartend in character. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do this. So I had been playing Fatal Frame 3. And I threw together Reika in a matter of like 30 minutes. Talk to the HST, Jimmy, who I believe is one of the writers now. And I run upstairs really fast, throw together a costume because I had tons of kimono. I was making kimono left and right because I love the way kimono feel and look, and I think they're awesome, so I was making them. Threw together a costume, tossed on a black wig, did my makeup, and walked downstairs to then be the bartender, Reika, and this Malkavian, and He gave me 8th gen. I was like, okay, I'm 753 8th gen. In a room full of people that have been playing this game for I don't know how long. I am on a severe XP deficit at this point. But I walked in, you know, shoulders back, head up, being very me. And I, you know, had my fan out and I was, you know, talking to people in character, using my accent, the whole nine. And I look across the bar and I recognized someone who then immediately recognized me. He's like, Jess? And I'm like, oh, hi. Hi, Corey. This is a guy I had known from troop games. Wasn't exactly known for being the most cunning vampire player on the planet. But, you know, I let it go, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get behind the bar and start doing what I need to do. And I'm sitting there, and I'm, you know, mixing up drinks for people, pouring glasses of wine, you know, giving them to them in character. I had my character with Blood Prep 5 so that people could actually drink in character, and they didn't have to, like, do this every time they were taking a sip. And he's over there talking. He's like, so what clan are you? And I went, I'm Malkavian. He's like, oh, good, I'm your primogen. Didn't even ask me if I was Cam, first of all. I wasn't. I was independent. So like, oh, I'm your primogen. We can talk about all these things. I'm like, here, have you met my husband? James Hawthorne? The Ventru? And kind of shoved my fiance toward him because I didn't want to play with the guy. I know the guy. I'm not a fan of the guy. He and I had had altercations in the past. I didn't want to deal with him. So he's like, oh, you're a Ventru. Well, I can talk to you about these business ventures where I'm making werewolf skin suits with Pentex. And I just sat there, literally, with a glass of wine in my hand, as my fiance at the time turned and looked at me. And I just put the glass of wine on the back of the bar, poured another one for the person who was getting one, and then chugged it myself. And you know, he eventually toddled off, and the fiance came over to me, and he's like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I don't know. That shouldn't even be a thing. And we did it in character at that point. And he's like, you should keep an eye on him. I don't want him messing up our bar. And I'm like, understood. So I stuck close to him, and then he started talking to me about how the Nosferatu Prince of Chicago was lazy, a layabout, good for nothing, lots of other pejoratives. And then he met up with this Tremere and was like, oh, I have to go, and walked off. And I sat there and went, and I went to go follow him. And he steps off with the ST, Jimmy. And he saw me walking up behind him in, you know, with my obfuscate sign up. And he starts immediately doing this. Starts looking around with Auspex. And Jimmy's like, why are you doing that? You never do that when you wander off to talk with the Tremere. Why are you doing that now? And so Jimmy was calling out the metagaming of seeing that I was standing there like this. And it turns out they had been plotting for months to kill the prince. And I went, oh. Waited for them to finish their conversation, turned around, walked in, sat down next to the prince and went, I understand I'm not a member of your sect, but I figure you'd like to know if there was an attempt on your life. And I rattled it all off for her. Because it was played by a woman, a very nice woman. She's still a friend of mine to this day. And that's how Reika suddenly became acknowledged in the Camarilla and Primogen all in the same night. And I went, I thwarted somebody who was trying to make werewolf skin suits for Pentex.
So that
My Guru heart hurt.
that definitely falls into the idea of people doing shit that they should know better than to try to do, but somehow get away with it anyways. And
Well,
it
the
makes
funny
no
thing
sense.
is, I was actually talking to the SD afterwards, and I'm like, and he said all this shit about like Pentex, and he's like, whoa, I never approved that. I'm like, over there.
A brief one that we ran into something like that together actually when Nigel was Prince in Chicago. Remember we had people come in from Ohio,
Yeah.
and so the guy comes in as this firebrand of a Bruja, I think it was, and And
Are you talking about the Bruja or the ghoul that was walking around unattached?
Well, he came in as the ghoul later.
That's right.
So he was playing a character that was kind of a firebrand, and I was playing my Asimite Seneschal. And
have such sights to
hey, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it, man. And that's right behind the banner. That's interesting. I'll have to fix that. No,
so yeah.
Right, so anyways, we
I was still Reika.
Yeah.
Harpy.
You were the Harpy. Nigel Adventure was a prince. I was the Seneschal of Asimite Asimite Vizier. And they came in and started trying to pull some shit, and we basically shut them down. Then the guy got mad, came back as this ghoul. And this ghoul had no regnant.
No regnant.
He was an independent ghoul. He was selling
Unattached
possession
ghoul.
suits. Like, he would go out and make custom possession suits. Like, he was hinting that he had access to vicissitude to make them look however people wanted. And immediately my bullshit radar goes off, and I'm like, what the hell are... What? And I immediately look at the Ohio people, I'm like, hey, he's from your state. What the hell is this? Because he's not leaving here, right? Like,
Yeah, he's not
as
leaving.
characters, we're like, he's an untended to ghoul on Elysium. He has no regnant. He's admitted he has no regnant. He is doing business with Kindred. He is kidnapping people and selling them their bodies to Kindred, and he's hinting that he has connections to get vicissitude to change the appearance of the bodies. You don't get to leave, right?
Yeah, no.
You go to step off Elysium. As soon as you do, you're black bagged. We go through your mind, and then we kill you. So we keep on bringing this up, and the guy's like, "Oh, please don't do anything to this character." Like, even our staff was like, "Oh, well, we can't just kill him." Like, the fuck, we can't. That needs to go. Like, you're asking us to completely break how this should work to let a player who's here traveling go and not take care of it. It's like, we can't just let this go. This guy should not be surviving the night. And it was just such a, like, mine was just blown. Yeah, it was the guy from Ohio, one of the Ohio troop. I just couldn't believe it. They're like, no, you have to let him go. What the fuck we do? No, seriously, you do. Why? This guy's a threat to the masquerade. Why are we letting him walk around?
He's walking around and just happens to know where Kindred are gathering in every city.
Yep. And he has business that he's done across the states. We're like, the fuck? How? You need to... Cool. That's one more thing we're tearing out of your mind. Who all your clients are, because they were part and party to fucking breaking the masquerade, essentially. So that was a problem. But the one I wanted, the story I actually want to tell, I think I'll need Jeff's help with. Because I don't remember what we were doing in this game. And you might. Jeff and I went to a game in Naperville, Illinois. And we ended up playing Salubri.
I know what you're doing. Yeah.
I don't remember why we were playing Salubri. But we were told that we could. And I think this was Greybook still, or was it like...
We weren't just Salubri. We were Family Lineage Salubri.
Right.
I was your chill.
We were playing on Greybook, right? We went still at Shepherd's Watch?
Yep, still at Shepherd's Watch.
So this is back in the day. This is Greybook LARP. So we go to the game, and we're playing Salubri for some reason. I think we just made the request, and they said sure, and that's just how it happened.
Yeah.
So we're walking around the Riverwalk, and it's this nice little downtown area. For those who haven't been in Naperville, it's a beautiful place to LARP in. I love LARPing down there. You walk along the river, you got some pavilions, you got shops and alleyways. We actually had Death Alley down there. You got bridges that go over the river that, you know, for pedestrians. It was a really nice place to play. We're walking around chilling, trying to figure out what's going on in the city. And for some reason, people are giving us a stink eye the whole fucking time. Like, I remember definitely being, like, stared at, like, you shouldn't be here. Like, we're just LARPers, dude. Like, we're just chilling. And so something happened where they attacked us, and I don't remember what that was.
I think it was because they cheesed it out of game because they called us Lombardians, basically, and they thought we were there to destroy their game. So they decided, we're just going to kill them. We don't care why. They're not going to be acknowledged, and we're just going to kill them.
Okay.
I love people like that.
So they jump us, and me and Jeff both throw up Shepherd's Watch. Shepherd's Watch in that edition, like, if you try to come within 10 feet of us, you have to throw a mental challenge.
Intent.
Yeah, with intent to cause harm, you have to throw a mental static. against our mental traits. If you fail, you're paralyzed for 10 minutes. Flat out 10 minutes. And so people came to us, started attacking us, and started getting dropped. And people were like, oh, this is bullshit. You're fucking power game and cheesing. And then somebody blows for between the ticks celerity.
The ticks, it was the prince.
And we're like, we're a problem? Like,
right.
what the fuck? Like, we came in to talk and roleplay, we get jumped because we're like, oh, they're Salubri, kill them. You know, like that was obvious somehow, you know, even though we had our
Right.
heads covered and shit. Oh, you're Salubri, we know it, we're gonna jump you. Shepherd's Watch, they drop. They're unbalanced and bullshit between the tick celerity. Like, what fucking planet are we on where you're balanced and you have like level 8 celerity or 9?
Right. 9.
And we're like using an intermediate level 1. You know? That was just such fucking crazy bullshit.
Yeah, that was the only time we went to that game too, because we were like, well, fuck it, we ain't coming back. And they're like, good, you're fucking Lombardians, get the fuck out of here. And we're like, dude, we came to check out the game and play.
We had never played in Lombard at that point, by the way. At least
Right,
I had.
No, we hadn't played in Lombard, I don't think.
We did Roselle. We did Roselle and like another game. We never went to Lombard until after that.
Right, because we did Roselle, we did the Girl Scout camp in Bolingbrook, the Bolingbrook site.
Yeah, that was, yep.
Because that's when I started playing in Saturday game, and they weren't at Lombard until springtime.
Yeah. Yeah, because they need the indoor site. But
Right.
that's my second. What's yours, Jeff?
So my third.
Go for
Oh,
3.
third. Jesus Christ. We're on 3?
So my
Goddamn,
third,
yo.
and I don't like to talk bad about people who have since been deceased. But this individual ran a game, and we at the time did it, I believe, in the back of Denny's. And this game only lasted 1 session because he decided, all right, we're going to start this game, and we're going to take off all restrictions. So if you want to take, you know, every flaw in the book, you get that many freebies. And I was like, what? Okay. I was like, fuck it. If we're going to be cheesy as fuck, I'll be cheesy as fuck. And everything that didn't alter my character's look, I took. So I had like haunted, I had smell of the grit. Like I had all these terrible things, but I didn't take like blind or monstrous or anything that would physically make me look weird. I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll look normal, but I'll be all sorts of fucked up. And not 5 minutes into this game, I was attacked by a dragon. And I diablerized this dragon. And I ended up with the permanent social trait minty because it was a mint dragon. So I gave off a mint smell. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, is this for real? Or is this like a one shot? You're just fucking around. He's like, no, man, this is going to be the Chronicle. And I'm like, have fun with that. And I ended up leaving with Bob and Nate and a bunch of other people. We just laughed about it for months.
Oh my
It
god.
was
Hey,
ridiculous.
I've helped kill a dragon in a vampire LARP before too.
But you were in Avalon in a completely different.
It was a marauder. It
Oh,
was a
no?
marauder that passed
It
through.
was a marauder. Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say because like we've been vampires in like mage shitstorms because that was the story. That was the storyline at the time. Cheesy, sure, but not like a dragon pops up in the middle of Elysium and tries to eat everybody from D&D, and a mind flayer's over there, and I'm like, yeah, we're done. I checked out. I was like, I'm out of this motherfucker.
Just
It was wild.
round 3 for you.
I'm still trying to reconcile the last story in my brain.
Yeah, that's fucked.
You know who it is. Both you know who the storyteller was.
Dennis?
Yeah.
Oh my
Really?
god, I got on my
Dennis-
first
Dennis
try.
Dennis and the twins. You remember the twins?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually fought a dragon, but that was because a marauder mage had swept through the area. It was the second game I played my Salubri Prince. I did say that correctly.
Yes, you did. At least it wasn't the old world Zamisi Prince.
Yeah, so
Okay, Old World Zamisi, you can get away with
as
that.
as just digest that, let me regale this tale here.
Please.
So
Now I'm trying to choose what my third one is.
I had gotten used at this point in time. I played a lot of vampire. Like it was like 99, I think this was, Jeff, something like that. 98.
It was literally right after I'd started. I had only been gaming for maybe 4 months.
Right.
Actually, while you're doing that, I'm gonna grab more tea.
So
This works.
I'm gonna tell her so she can listen to it. Now she's gonna leave.
No, go ahead.
Okay, you can still hear.
I
Awesome.
think I've probably actually heard it before.
I don't think you
but
have.
My brain's just not remembering.
So I've been playing characters that were a little more like, I got a little more martial based. Like, you know, I'm beating shit up. I was 18, 19 at the time. You know, in my opinion, that's the age where that's allowable in gaming, where you're like, yeah, you just want to roll shit up and blow shit up. Fine, you just started the game, whatever. You know, if you're just getting into it, that always, everybody goes through that phase, in my opinion. So I was trying to step out of that, and I was like, I want to play something new, something I've never played before. So I had gone through the gauntlet of, you know, the Gangrel, the Tremere, the Venture, like all this other type of shit. And I just lost, I think, a Gangrel in Falco's game. And I'm like, I want to play something new. There's this bloodline in here called the Salubri. It's something gray book. I'm like, it sounds kind of neat. They're playing I've never played a pacifist before. Could be a lot of fun. So he goes, yeah, sure. You know, write me a backstory and, you know, why you're still around and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so I did, you know, he's a Salubri, didn't want Dialbar's sire, so he fled. And so he became a priest, you know. So I'm playing Gabriel and Gabriel Michaels. Wow, I haven't said that name in a long time. So I'm playing Gabriel Michaels, this Salubri who's posing as a caitiff, independent, not trying to get involved in politics, because I know that as soon as they find out what I am, I'm going to get hunted. So second time I'm playing this character, Nate Tittle's there, and he's playing his Tremere, his ridiculous-ass Tremere. And we get attacked by a dragon. Because the Marauder, as the Marauder's walking through the area, shit's warping, right? Reality's warping to his fantasy. And so we get thrown back in the Dark Ages with a dragon. The dragon attacks us, and it comes at me, and I just literally hit it in the face with my hand and use anesthetic touch. And it makes it go bloop. It just drops it. Unfortunately, Tremere's walking by at that point in time and sees the glowing third eye on my forehead and goes, the hell? I'm like, I'm just trying to make sure we don't die. You know, I'm trying to negotiate. He's like, no, it's cool. Will that keep him that way forever? I'm like, yeah, I think so. So he walks up and starts doing theft of vitae. Theft of vitae, theft of vitae, theft of vitae, while I'm holding it down, and we kill this dragon. So at that point, he turns to me and goes, you know what? I got to alert my superiors, but if you do the occasional favor for me, I'll make sure nobody finds out what you are. I'm like, second time playing the character, I'm like, sure, that sounds like a good idea. So we play this game for like 2 years, something like that, I think. And over time, I got in with the prince, became the seneschal. They thought I was just a clanless person. And then I became prince. And that was after the death of the former prince. I took over as prince. And like, oh, a caitiff prince. Ooh, you know, that's fucking, you know, dire straits here. And I'm like, yeah,
Scandalous.
you don't even know. So then new players start coming in, and they find out. Something goes down, and they find out I'm Salubri. But at this point in time, the game's been flipped. Because I've got access to all kinds of thaumaturgy, and it's gotten stupid. I have like an item that gives me fleetness. I have a fucking sword that does ag. I have Master Dro's sash, which is like soakable, rechargeable health levels.
That does ag. Not just a sword that does ag. It's a scimitar that lights on fucking fire.
Yeah, with a mental trait.
It does ag.
Yeah, with a mental
right,
trait.
with a mental trait.
So we get to this point where they're like, "Well, we're gonna kill you." I'm like, "Cool. I'll tell you this right now. I'm the prince of the Camarilla domain. I am what I am. You know, fine. I'm Salubri. I'll be open about it. So is Clan Tremere to declare war against the Camarilla prince? Tell me." Now the right answer is yes, because you're fucking
That's
Salubri.
the correct answer.
And they take me out, and then they smooth over the Archon. The Archon's come by like, "Why'd you kill the prince?" We're like, "He was a fucking Salubri." The Archon's like, "Holy shit! Shake your hand. You know, take your status. You know, while I'm at it." But for some reason, all the players back down. So I'm playing this fucking like 15 status prince. I'm like, as a Salubri, the fuck. Way it went, man. Shit's crazy.
Yeah, I remember Gabriel. Gabriel was cool.
Yep.
Like, he was a cool character up until it got cheesy. Like,
Oh, he
most
was
of our
stupid
characters
cheesy.
in that game ended
Oh,
up
yeah.
getting.
He was super fucking stupid, crazy, powerful. Jesse.
So, kind of one of my favorite moments that was also kind of a bit of a horror story. Several years ago, like 6-7 years ago now, CDR in One World by Night decided to run a event, like a little mini event game, where we finally went into Succubus Club and took care of the Bahari that had taken over there and had been there since I pretty much started playing Reika. Actually, a little bit before that. So
Like,
it had
they
been
know-
like 10, 15 years.
They know what's really in there, right? Like, and they let a Bahari take over? I'm just asking. You know,
Don't look at
for the
me,
viewers.
it's-
For the
For the
viewers.
viewers.
Org things. I couldn't
Okay.
tell you
I
because
was
it
just
happened
curious.
just before I started playing Reika. but the Bahari had apparently always been there.
Okay.
And
as
had
they say.
had Portia staked in the basement feeding their tree.
That's funny, but Portia is not the baddest ass thing in the Succubus
I
Club.
know.
Guilfoyle is.
I know. Wasn't the ST who ran it. The ST who was running the mini event was not the ST who ran that either. So
Right
it
on.
had just
No, I
been
was
passed
curious.
down through the ages in CDR.
Right. And it is
so
more
I'm-
games, so shit changes. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
I'm there, I'm playing Reika. Because, my longest lasting character ever, she's still alive. She should have been dead like 5 times, but she's still alive. So I go there to play her, and I'm, there with my friends. I'm there with Matris. I'm there with, like, a whole bunch of one-worlders. And, like, a lot of us are older, bigger sheets. So, obviously we're going to go hit the top floors while the little sheets take on the smaller floors. And I think the greatest moment ever playing that game, because it was literally, like, just nothing but combat. We were just constantly throwing combat. But the plan was, since I was going in with a Elder Ventru, I was going in with an Elder Asimite and an Elder Gangrel, and I was going in as the Elder Malkavian. The Elder Asimite was doing shared strength to give everybody potence 5. The Elder Ventru was doing shared strength, or inspire greatness to...
Sounds like a Ridgely
Yes,
thing.
it was Ridgely who started that, by the way. But Ridgely was not the one who was running the event game. The event game was Kathleen.
Russ was right on top of it, like, bing,
Oh,
bing, bing.
he
I know who
knows.
that was.
Oh, we had a whole thing in Chicago where we had a Bahari Prince for about 2 years. I can get to that later. Because that's one of the instances where my character should have died. But so, they're all doing this inspire greatness, all this shit, shared strength, give people fleetness. Someone's sharing out fucking items to give people fleetness. And literally, as Reika, I looked them dead in the face and went, I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. And they're like, you're a Malkavian. Yes, you need it. I looked them dead in the face and went, no, I don't. And they're like, okay, we're just going to back off. And, the Malkavian will just drive everybody crazy. That's fine. I literally walked into that scene. And Sean, the guy who played Nigel, was running our portion of the scene and went, okay, Jess, what are your declarations? And I'm like, I'm spending 3 blood. 1 for fleetness. 1 for claws. And 1 for an extra physical trait. And they all went, wait, what? And I went, yeah, you literally watch the Malkavian tattoos appear, claws come out, and I'm blowing fleetness. And they're like, wait, huh? I'm like, oh, by the way, I also do an extra damage because I have puissance. And literally just all of these older players, with the exception of Matris, who knew, just kind of went.
See, that's the one thing I really don't like about the MET system is that once you get FAP, that's pretty much it.
Well, and it was great that they were giving it away to, smaller characters that were trying to join us.
Yeah.
I was totally cool with that. But they're like, oh, this little Malkavian. No.
Yeah.
And I literally
Well,
had
you know
people
what they
after
say.
that game looking at me going, how the fuck did she get that? I'm like, well, Puissance, because she was in good with several Bruja. She learned Puissance. She was in good with several Toreador and had a favor from the Justicar, so she learned Fleetness. And her husband was Ventru. There's her Aegis. But the claws, I have a friend who's a Gangrel and an Anarch.
Mr. John
You know what
Locke,
they say,
probably.
Ray?
Mr. John Locke,
You know
who
what
was
they
learning
say, Ray?
demontation from me.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a
Would
woodchuck
had
had
fleetness and
puissance?
puissance. Yep. So
The answer is about 52 Bahari worth.
Chris brought up this question about what about the Toreador Matador versus the Super NPC guy. So first off, I wasn't a Matador.
It was a dancer. He was a Spanish dancer.
Wasn't a
Spanish
Matador.
dancer, right?
That's actually insulting. Thank you, but I appreciate it. At least you got you got the feel of it, Chris, which is what's important. So I was playing this Toreador.
yeah.
Yeah, I was playing a Toreador Spanish dancer named Marius, and I had this cursed sword, this rapier that was a magical item that did additional point of damage, but once it drew blood, it couldn't stop until someone was in torpor, either myself or the other person. So, except for special circumstances, apparently. It was a weird thing. It was run by the same game that did the battle gnomes, the battle lawn gnomes, ran this sword. So,
Yep.
we're sitting there, and now
I remember I was there.
For those-
still can't do the gnomes.
for those who had never played with us, I had a huge issue. I don't know where it came from with this guy named Keith, who always played Brujah, always played Irish Brujah.
Everybody.
I'm pretty sure everybody had an issue with
fucking Keith.
So
admittedly, because I had one with him too.
So it became a thing where it's like he actually once threw a table at me at LARP, and I was like, "You need to calm the fuck down. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?" And so whatever it was always just a dick to me in and out of game. Like out of game, I didn't give a shit. I'm like, I don't like you. We don't hang out. What do I give a shit? In game, he was just always a prick. So I'm playing this Toreador, and I'm an Elder Toreador. I'm 8th gen Toreador. He's playing an Elder Irish Brujah, which is what he always plays. An Elder Irish
I'm
Brujah.
sure he never. It's always
So-
an Irish something or other.
He comes out
Well,
and it's so funny because I can't tell which one of his characters this was because I fucked over so many of his characters and I can't tell them apart because they're all played exactly the same. So I'm playing this Toreador and
You just played him with stats.
right, and I'm kind of a easygoing-lucky guy, but I'm also kind of a you talk shit, I'm gonna talk shit right back to you. So we get outside and he's like, "Oh, you got that little you get the little toothpick of a stick." I'm like, "It'll probably kill someone like you without an issue. Like you just what? Throw your toys around when you get angry? Is that what happens here?" He's like, "Fuck, that's blah blah blah," and he got so mad. So he goes to swing at me. I'm like, "All right, we can do this." Like I step back as he swings. I'm like, "You want to fight? We'll fight." He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight you." I'm like, "Okay, cool. It's just you and me." Now I didn't know Bob was there, just off in the corner watching. And people
So
started
was I.
showing up. Yeah, people started showing up as I draw the sword. We got a narrator out there and everything. And now I'm performance 5 Spanish dancing, right? Performance dancing with the Spanish dancing, specialty. And so we're fighting. And every time he would miss, I'd just poke him with the sword, right? Just to do like a lethal, wink, take a point of blood and just fuck with him. And finally, like, he just loses his shit, doesn't frenzy yet, and just charges at me. And I'm like, cool, I'm just going to dodge. He's like, "I got strength bomb ties." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm dodging. I'm quick bomb ties." Like, duh. So we tie, and I'm like, wait a minute. I go to the narrator, I'm like, "I got an idea. Can I retest, instead of using dodge, which I have plenty of, but can I retest performance Spanish dancing?" And the storyteller goes, "Well, how would you do that?" And I'm like, "If you say yes, I'll pantomime exactly how I'm going to do it." And he goes, "You know what? Sure, go ahead." So I literally just, I twirl and snap my fingers and go, "Ole!" as he goes by me, and I win the test.
That's so good.
Keith's character, Keith loses it. He's like, "This is bullshit." And he's like, "Fuck this, I'm going to kill you." And he's like, "I need to test for frenzy." And the ST's like, "Why?" He goes, "Because he just danced out of my way." And he's like, "I'm going to make you test. You frenzy. Congratulations." And I put him in torpor.
This shit was so
Just
good.
shanked him with this rapier. I put
And
him
it
in
was
torpor.
funny because after you put him in torpor, when the sheriff took him away, one of the deputies diablerized him.
Oh, no, that's not that time. That was
No,
a
no, no.
different
I
time.
diablerized him the other time when you hit him out of obfuscate with Samil.
Vengeance of
Samil.
Samil.
I diablerized him that time because I was playing Sanduka and Asamite on Path of Blood. That was a Paste Bali.
Maybe
I
this-
ate that motherfucker.
Maybe this is why he hated me so much. Every time I put him in
Kept getting his
torpor,
character diablerized.
somebody ate him. Because
Oh man, it happened multiple times. Dude.
we played again. I was playing a Salubrianti Tribu, and I was an obfuscate, and we were told to kill him by the prince. I'm like, okay, cool. And I blew my blood for vengeance. I declared the storyteller, and I'm like, physical challenge, Keith, surprise, and obfuscate. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm like, yeah, just humor me. He's like, okay. I'm like brawny enough to stake you. He's like, cool. I went to might retest. I got it in, and I lost the first simple. He's like, we're done. I'm like, no. We need to do the second one. Trust me. We do the second one, and I win. I'm like, you're staked. He goes, the buck I am. You have to win or tie both. I'm like, now with Vengeance of Samil, I don't. I have to win or tie
Right.
one of them.
One.
He's like, this is bullshit. So he gets
And I
staked.
was playing the sheriff. I was like, I'll take him from here. And I took him off and I ate his ass. I was like, I'm 7th gen. Whoop whoop.
Nom nom nom.
His
Bitch.
second time.
2 XP.
Deputy that diablerized him when you were playing the Spanish Dancer was, I believe his name was Phil. It was the guy that Baptiste brought that came around and
Oh, yeah, the Nas. Yeah.
he ate him. Like, so that he's been eaten multiple times because you fucking put him in torpor and staked him. It's so funny.
Well, now we have figured out the mystery of why he hated Ray so much.
That might be it, man. Fuck, who knows, man? That shit got
I mean,
bad.
I know you're an asshole, but it was
be.
never like deserving of any
Oh,
of that.
man. Like, he was just always a prick.
I
Jeff.
mean, he hated everybody, admittedly.
Yeah.
it was so fucking funny.
Jeff,
With me, it was because, oh, you're just a girl, you don't know what you're doing. And my response was, here, let me kill
He
you
was
twice.
arrogant, sexist asshole. Or he was
Oh, he
back then.
was.
I haven't talked to him in years, so he could have changed, but who knows?
He could have, but yeah, I got him killed twice
Give him the benefit
myself
of the
by
doubt.
like 3 other people, and I went, I'm just a girl and don't know what I'm doing.
That's why you thought it was a matador. Yes, it was. I mean, I can see why you would think that, but it was primarily just normal fucking just tangoing and shit, you know.
Yep.
So, Jeff,
I
what's
do
your,
aspire one day to use that, though.
what's your
Ole.
next?
So I knew you were going to come to this, and I've been thinking, I'm like, I don't know what story I want to tell because I have so many. But we played in a game, which you played in as well. It was run by a guy named Ben. I think his last name was Dagenhart.
Yep, Dagenhart.
A good enough guy, but he would always run
Really wonky
very
shit.
weird games. And he let me play an Ananasi. Now, normally, it's like, all right, it's an Ananasi in a vampire game. It can kind of work until they figure out you're an Ananasi, and then they're going to kill you. Because I took like the flaws that one of the flaws is 1 point is a vampire file. You want to know everything you can about vampires because they're interesting to you. Basically, it's what
You
you're
both
doing
suck
for
blood and-
for Grandma Spider. Basically, is I'm learning about these people so I can infiltrate them and kill them if I need to, or manipulate them, or however whatever Mother Ananasi needs. Because you're basically, as an Ananasi, you're part of basically a hive mind. You do what the Weaver tells you to do in essence.
Yeah,
Well,
you do what
this is
Queen Ananasa
this is
needs.
back. This is back when I was a shady little gamer. And
He says
I
like this is
talked in
so
one of the
long ago.
powers-
I'd say back when?
Right.
One of the powers was called Blood Pump, and all it lets you do is it lets you spend as much blood as you wanted around, as long as it
Yep.
was within your system. I convinced him that tabletop rules it gave you the essence of Potence 5. And he also allowed me to have a Hakar, which is a traditional Bastet weapon, Bastet only. It's like the
Yeah.
spirits. It's like the
clave.
Bastet's version of a clave. And he let me
Effectively.
use it, but he let me basically use it at range with Passants. And I was able to basically decapitate people in one turn because it did ag. And I don't know how many people I killed like that, but it was ridiculous. So that one was a bad on me.
I've
Not
gotten
the storyteller necessarily.
See, we've gotten some interesting stuff over on Storytellers. I mean, if we want to look at it that way.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah,
I will
yeah.
let
No,
you.
I wanted to mix it up. I wanted to be like, all right, I was a dick in this case.
I've got those stories too.
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
I basically did that with the looking at a whole bunch of sheets that were actually bigger than mine, going, I don't need your potence, I don't need your fortitude. I don't need your shit, I already got this done.
The one where I actually asked the storyteller if he was sure that he wanted me to do something is one that still sticks with me to this day.
Yeah, I've got a story like that too.
So it was a Naperville game, ironically, later in life, and our friend Falco was friends with the guy who's running it, and they wanted us to come in for like this huge Sabbat scene because they had a Sombra anti-tribu prince, and they wanted to do this massive Sabbat like attack against him and kind of like make it this really awesome epic pinnacle moment, right? Like the entirety of their little mini event for this attack was hinging on the fact that it was going to be a challenge. It was going to be a really long, drawn out, protracted fight. They wanted to be dramatic and epic and like really fucking cool. But the Cam side, as those characters died over the course of this campaign, I guess, they started making Sabbat characters. So it was very, very tilted in favor of Sabbat. And the ST's like, we need some more Cam, like some larger Cam characters in here. And so he pulls Falco aside. It's like, I know you run a game. Any of your players want to play their characters here? And Mike goes, you sure about that? Like,
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know if you really want them to do that. And he's like, no. Yeah, seriously. They just tell me what they are and it's fine. Okay, cool.
We were massive at that point.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was playing Gabriel. So the guy comes to me. Mike comes over first. He's like, hey, Raid, you want to play Gabriel? I'm like, what? Here? He goes, yeah. I'm like, sure. Why not? Like, what? Why? Oh, they need somebody to help the prince out. I'm like, okay, sure. No problem. And now Gabriel Michaels at this point is fucking broken big in points. Like 1,300 points broken. So like he's huge. He's
1,345 ways to whoop
your ass without rituals, and it was stupid.
Without rituals, that's right.
So I agreed,
And yet he gripes about my 12.
but I said, well, yeah, because I retired this character. So
I'm a mentor on people's sheets.
so I said to them, Are you sure you want to play this character? Like, are you sure? And besides, the game was flavored towards those type of characters anyways. Because we did a lot of like Horizon Realm jumping, which is how I got Thaumaturgy. I effectively spent 1,000 years in a library in a Horizon Realm studying Thaumaturgy.
That was constantly sunlight, but
Yep.
the sunlight didn't burn
Nope.
because it was a different realm entirely.
It's Horizon Realm, yep. So,
As a vampire.
yep. Learning Thaumaturgy in Horizon Realm.
That's when we had Bane. Was it Bane traits or Beast traits?
Yep.
So
People
like,
had sunlight were fucked.
Beast trait sunlight. Yeah, I had sunlight, so I was fucked.
Yeah.
I had to spend 2 game sessions basically sitting on my ass because we were in this Horizon Realm, and I had to dig a hole and hide in there for the 2 days because I had the beast trait of sunlight.
Yeah.
But anybody who didn't, it didn't make them frenzy. It didn't burn them. It didn't do nothing. I'm like, my dumb ass. The one
Shit
thing
in the
that's
draw.
absolutely a bane of vampire. I was like, I'll never run into this, or if I do, it'll be during the
There
it's
you
the whole
go.
fucking 2 game sessions in a Horizon Realm. Fuck.
Yeah. So I asked the ST, like, you know what I have?
I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab.
No problem. Here's what I got. Are you sure you want me to play? He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I'm like, all right. So I just protect the prince. I'm going to stay by the prince. I'm another prince. I got it. I'll help him out. So everybody else is going to do other shit and like carrying the spot and like towards the end of the night when this whole battle is supposed to like come to this accumulation, what happens is I'm with the prince in this boardroom in this skyscraper and I obfuscate. But at the same time, I throw up Shepherd's Watch. And I ask, I'm like, listen, it's your call. Will Shepherd's Watch work while I'm in obfuscate? I'm like, in my opinion, it's a 50-50 toss-up. He's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, you know what Shepherd's Watch does? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you sure you want me to use it? He's like, yeah, go ahead, man. It's what you want to do. I'm like, okay. So I throw up Shepherd's Watch, and I'm behind the prince. Prince knows I'm there. I'm in his mind with telepathy, and we're walking around. I'm like, yeah, I'll be nearby you in case they attack. Once they attack, if they try to assault you, more than likely they'll drop. Wait until they all drop, and then we'll handle them. He's like, okay. And the character goes, like, the guy goes out of character. He's like, are you sure that's going to work? I'm like, who knows? It's a chop. Like, it might. We'll at least reduce their numbers. So he's like, all right, cool. So all the Sabbat are in the ductwork. They're like fucking like John McClane and shit to get to us. And they all hop out into the room. And there's like 15, 20 of them.
Just kick down a wall, use a Bruja, use a Zemise.
They were trying to be, they thought they were being stealthy, so they jump out, and it's like 15, 20 of them. And I'm like, okay. I'm right here, but I'm going to kind of walk out this pace. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't worry about it. I just need to do this really quick out of game. So I pace off the area. And I'm like, so anyone who comes in that area, I need a mental static from you. They're like, okay, sure. Like, awesome.
You're beep booping.
I am. What do you mean?
You're roboting.
Chat, am I sounding like a bot here?
Now you're back.
Okay, that's weird. So,
You've done it a couple times tonight, but
weird.
nothing really that wrong.
So,
I'm gonna turn my camera off.
okay.
But I'm still here.
All right. So, essentially, all of them go to charge the prince at the top of the round. Like, oh, we're all blowing for celerity, and we're all charging the prince. I'm like, cool. I need a mental stack from everybody. And we go down the line. I drop every single character. They just drop. I'm bidding 14 normally on ties. So they're going up against 14, and they're all like 12th gen. So they're losing. Everyone's losing on ties. So they all fail. They all drop, and they're like, all right, well, so how long are we down for? Like, what, a round? I'm like, no, 10 minutes. And the ST goes, what? I'm like, yeah, they're down for 10 minutes. Well, if you attack them, doesn't it drop? I'm like, no. If I attack, Shepherd's Watch itself drops, but those that have been dropped before that are still down. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, that's why I told you what this power does. Like, we got the book out here, right? He's like, oh, fuck. I'm like, yeah. So he's like, so you're telling me every Sabbat member in this building just got dropped essentially in the torpor for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, they're not in torpor because we're going to cut their heads off. And so we did. We killed every single Sabbat member. Just bink, 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 ashed them all. And all all the players like, this is bullshit. I'm like, sorry guys. Like, he told me to do it.
Welcome to the Are You
And like,
Sure?
I asked him, like, you know what I have? Are you sure you want me to do this? And he thought I was gonna go around whipping out thaumaturgy and fleetness and flaming swords. I'm like, no. Boop. Shepherd's Watch is gonna handle this problem.
And at that point, you had even created your own path of thaumaturgy.
Oh, they were all converted at that point. They all worked off True Faith.
Yeah, Path of Heavenly Flame. Path of Heavenly Flame.
Yep. Oh, it was badass.
The silliest of shit.
Oh, it was. It most certainly was. And that's the type of game it was, you know? Like, that's the type of game we played in, where that type of thing was a big deal. It wasn't so much about the powers, because everybody had powerful-ass characters. It was more about, like, what we did with them, you know? Like, I had a constant, like, rivalry with Falco's character, which was an Infernalist.
I don't do magic, Morty. I do science. One takes brains, the other takes dark eyeliner.
So
Yep.
Thank you, Doug.
I too have a "Are you sure?" story. One of my first ever experiences in a like fully troop LARP that wasn't, you know, we were bored before class when I was in high school. So I'm 16. And I go to Harper, drive myself, because I had heard there was a game and they were playing Vampire, and you know, I had found the books at like a half price books or something. And I had been running it at Larkin during the mornings, because we were there like an hour and a half before classes actually started, because we got bussed in from, you know, Perlet and Streamwood and all these other places.
Right.
So I go out there to check, and like I dressed up, you know, because new group of people. Little high school Jess was not exactly the most self-confident person on the planet. And I walk in, I'm like, okay, what version are you guys playing? I'm like, oh, we're doing revised. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, what does your game need? What can I build? And the ST, who's never met me before, looks at me and goes, actually, do you want to play an NPC for me? I'm like, okay, sure. You know, hand me the sheet so I can look at it and like come up with like a backstory and all this stuff real fast. And he's like, sure. He hands me a sheet that's 10 pages long. And I'm like, wait, what? There's no generation written on it. Completely maxed out blood. Completely maxed out willpower. Like, I'm talking, I could throw 25 fucking willpower at something. And every single power to 10. Every path of thaumaturgy, including Dark Thumb. Demonian's on there. Whole bunch of stupid shit, like every ability in fucking Grapevine at like 7 or 8. And I took one look at this sheet and went, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. You know, I trust you. Stupidest words to ever say to me when you basically hand me fucking Kane.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
So I'm like, okay, if you're sure. So I walk into the game. Person playing the sheriff gets up in my face immediately. Who are you and what are you doing in this city? I just kind of looked at him and went, I am me and I do what I please. He went, you're going to tell me who you are and what you're doing here right now. I have status in the Camarilla and you don't. And I looked at him and went, why do I care? And he went, okay, physical challenge. And I went, okay. And he tried to take me down and I one-shotted his ass. And then proceeded to one-shot everyone who came after him. Then turned, looked at the ST, handed him back the sheet and went, this is why you don't hand this to a new player. And I left.
That's just bad form entirely. It sounded like he had some
Right.
player issues too. Like, you know, that's just nuts. So Russ just brought up
I've only
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I've only brought like something semi wonky into my game, like that I can recall off the top of my head once, and that was actually with Chris, Baron Pawnbroker, and it wasn't wonky. It made sense for the scene. They were in Chicago by Navy Pier, by the lake, and Chris was playing the Salubri. Chris was playing the Salubri, and he didn't know. He knew he was drawn to this person, but didn't know why. It was just a guy. He was sitting there looking out over Lake Michigan. You know, the moonlight's up in there. I described it kind of real, almost like intimate for the scene.
Ooh.
And Chris didn't know it at the time. It took him a little while to realize it, but it was Salat. And Salat basically had grown tired of the world. He's like, there's nothing I can do that will improve on this world. Like, all of them, our children are crazy. The vampires are, you know, basically going back on his teachings. Kane told us this was going to happen, that we would continue to make, and it would just devolve and devolve until it was completely out of control. And he was basically kind of contemplating that, and Chris walked up to him, and they had a very like really cool scene. But that was the only time I brought something super uber powerful into one of my games that I can recall. But it wasn't there for combat purposes. It wasn't there for them to kill. It was a contemplative character, and I helped Chris's character kind of basically almost get deeper into his own character, kind of seeing things from Salat's eyes.
Mhm.
And I thought it was really cool. But yeah, that's the only time I've brought something ridiculously powerful into my game.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't get like if things are scaled. Like if you scale your stuff according to your average player level, I don't see, why some people do like the massive like badass. Like for combat is what I mean. Like I don't get like why that has to be there, because it's like
Oh yeah, and Lucifer.
Well, yeah. I mean, so
But again, contemplative scene. You
Yeah.
didn't fight him. You tried to and saw why it didn't work.
there's a difference in, I think, having those characters around for roleplay than there is like having there to like be an antagonistic like physical NPC. I've played the devil in a mage game before that I ran. That was interesting. Live action.
And you had somebody play the devil in one of the games you ran before too.
Yeah. So
At Micah's house.
yeah. So things get interesting. But Russ has said here one of his stories in chat had a new player show up at CDR around 2004. I was a narrator at the time. So I walk up to this guy and start talking with him to help him build a character because he wanted to play Gangrel. Then he asks, so when do we start drinking blood here? This is just a game. We don't drink blood. Give me a minute. I went to the STs and told him what happened. Dude actually thought he was a vampire and that we all drank blood a game. Whoo!
We've run into that before.
Yep.
We've run into that before.
We all three know somebody like that.
Yep. Oh, yeah, those
And
are
it's all the same person for the three of us, too. It's even better.
potentially.
Actually,
We also
it
we
might
also
be all
know
four of
somebody-
us.
Yeah.
we
Could be
also
the
know
same
somebody
person.
who used to come to game with his sister so they could have sex in the woods.
Do we?
I don't know if you remember that at Lilatia. Yeah. We had to
I
take
never
him out
went to
of game
Lilatia.
because
I'm
we
so
were like,
happy.
what the fuck are you people doing? And, oh, we're just having sex out. No, that's your sister. What the fuck are you doing? But this is, it's a vampire game. It should be accepted. No, get the fuck out of here. What's your problem? And they were kids. They were like 16 years old or 17. They were young.
You
We
gotta
were like,
go.
What the fuck, bro?
Yeah, you gotta go. That's a fucked up.
Yeah,
like,
we had to call the we had to call the cops and everything. It was fucked.
I think another one of my like I don't even know, like, man, like that actually just makes me, my brain just stop. I had another story. I'm like,
Yeah.
like what
I'm
the
pretty
fuck?
sure my brain just
Yeah,
shut
no,
down.
that was fucked. Dude. Really
I mean, the
fucked.
worst I ever had was an ST who lost his damn fool mind and chased a girl into the fucking bathroom
At Harper.
at Harper, yeah.
Yeah, that's another
Oddly
one
enough,
that
the
too.
same ST who let me play Lilith.
Yeah. I think. Oh, yeah. One of my favorites when STs allow players to buy experience points with money. We all know these stories.
Oh, I know exactly what you're
yeah.
talking about.
4th gen.
Or Mr. 2
Gargoyle.
XP a pump.
Oh my
Fort
god.
Gen Gargoyle, yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. He came to game blitzed, and we had to take game away from him because he was doing some heinous shit.
Yeah. He's
but-
lucky he didn't get pushed over a banister by me that night.
But it's an ST who's like, oh yeah, everything's fine. You want to pay my rent? Take how much character it's be. The fuck, dude? Like,
Yeah.
then we're gonna put you down to 4th gen. So then we get stepped in, and this is, like such a bit of contention with me. So we got pulled in to kind of run the game, and we're gonna fix it, right? Fix it. But I realize now, there's a
We lost
time.
Jeff.
You didn't lose me.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
I realize now
I
that
just noticed
there's
your cam went out.
there comes a point with certain games where you just it's just time to end them, right? Just bury them because you can't fix it. So I'm on staff with like 3 other people. It's me, Rick Hines, Vince, and Jeremy. Fuck, glasses guy.
Jeremy sounds
Jared
right.
Hogan?
No. Oh, fuck no. He tried to come in and we had to kick him out. But anyways, we're 4 STs running this game. It's like 30 some odd players. And we're like, all right, first off, a lot of players got driven off because of the ST's behaviors. We need to find a way to get them back. We need to find a way to fix things, right? So my idea of fixing things is not just fixing the PR portion, but fixing the game that had gotten so woefully unbalanced by letting people buy at speed that we have to make action, right? One of which was getting rid of the two fourth gen characters in the game.
One being a gargoyle.
One being a
And
gargoyle.
the other one being a Torador.
Yeah, so they had stumbled upon an Enoch, 2 sleeping 4th gens, and they ate them. And we're totally fine.
First of all, how did they even get to Enoch?
Well, because the Torador was playing a Talmahira and had a ritual that let him go into the Shadowlands. And he
So-
went to the Maelstrom, i.e. Enoch, and that's
Yeah.
where that came from.
So as I'm on staff, and these staff meetings we used to have at Rick's house, and I drank a lot because I had to. Because I'm like,
I mean,
listen,
you're
man,
dealing with 2 4th gens, yeah.
we got to get rid of these characters. And Rick goes, well, that's not fair. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, they've had their fun at the expense of the game. Right? Like,
They've broken the game,
Well-
and we are trying to fix the
well,
game.
people would
so-
come in and try and want to play, then see this bullshit and go, you know what? Done. Bye. So we fought about it constantly. I'm like, we need to correct this because they need to go. Well, it's not fair to just kill them. I'm like, it's not fair they got to buy their XP. Like, they paid, they have their fun. It scared players off. Now we need to correct the situation. And we argue about this all the time because he didn't think it was fair to just take things away. And I'm like, it wasn't fair they got in the first place. So we're kind of balancing the scales here, right? In my mind. And so we fought about it a lot. And in the end, the characters took a step back for a small period of time. And during that period of time, we grew to like 80 fucking players. I had like 90 PCs in the fucking database. So it got pretty good. I stepped down because I just couldn't handle it. Like, because they wanted to go off in just this weird, like, completely cannon breaking direction. And for me, that wasn't what I was about. So I left. But yeah, those type of shit just gets crazy when people are like, oh, it's okay to have this massive fucking character. I'm like, it is to a degree. But then you gotta realize that sometimes those characters do more damage to the game than good for the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well,
Absolutely.
he helps other players through plot lines. No, he makes plot lines mean nothing because he just destroys everything with disciplines. That's what they do. So I've seen that kind of go sideways when people do that. And I think at that point, it's a problem of caving into players wanting to have instant gratification to be able to be the badass that nobody can stop. And 2, your plot lines are too weak to keep them interested. They just want power. So you got to find a way to fix that, balance that shit. It's going to go down in bad ways.
Well, then you get, org play where you wind up getting some truly stupid shit.
Can we talk
I don't
about
even
New
remember what
York
the
for a
fuck-
minute?
I mean, do you want to talk about New York? I was gonna go with the fucking mummy objects.
Sure. That's hey, that was East
I
Coast.
don't even remember what the scene was that we were running that
Oh,
they showed up for. I know it was in Sabat.
They were doing the Elder Hunt.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, yeah. So we had a few elders hanging out in Rockford. The buffer zone outside of Chicago. They also got their own little like fiefdom going on out here outside of the pull of the cam in Chicago. And we had a couple of elders. One of them, well, we had one elder. Nobody else realized we only had one elder.
Yeah, they thought there were
but-
like a ton for some reason.
Yeah, there was only one. There's just one that kept fucking with him.
Torador.
So, this giant fucking caitiff, this massive sheet that put my goddamn 12-year-old Malkavian to shame. It's like, I'm gonna call in a bunch of these other caitiff, and we're gonna hunt down this elder. Okay. So we start getting sheets coming in because, to play in the org and do online scenes, or like even before you go to the game, you're supposed to send your sheet to the STs. So
Yep.
they can be like, all right, and this is good, this is good, this is good, this has to be redlined, this
Right.
doesn't work the way you're used to, so let's talk it out. And when you're doing an email scene, you also have to send either pictures or photocopies of your
Item cards.
items, your item cards. So we're getting a lot of the standard stuff. We're getting like, okay, I've got a baseball bat that's kindred warded. Okay, whatever. That's about fucking par for the course in the org. We have no reason to say no. And then 3 mummy items showed up. And like, I didn't know what they were. I looked at the things and I'm like, that's weird. And Ray looked at it and he's like, yeah, that is weird. And he started looking into it and he's like, these are mummy items. I'm like, wait, what? These are what items? He's like, these are mummy
They
items.
were stupid powerful too.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this. That doesn't look like something thaumaturgy can make, right? Or like Koldunism, or literally anything else that doesn't even look like a fetish for Guru. And I'm like, that doesn't work. That's weird. What is that?
Mm-hmm.
So we reach out to their ST staff and we're like, hey, how did these characters get mummy items? They spent 1 Occult 5 action for each item. Just 1. Not multiple weeks of 5, just 1. No
That's
lore
some
about
silly
mummies.
shit.
They had no lore on mummies. So we reach out to the Sedite Court, who also consequently is the one in charge of mummy shit. And we're like, hey, Stacy, did you approve this? And her response was, no.
Right.
No, I did not. They shouldn't have that. I'm like, okay, we thought we were going crazy over here looking at this going, no. So we had actually come up with a lovely plot to teach these players a lesson.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. It wasn't originally. It was because they had all kinds of stupid fetishes too, and one dude had a collection of claves.
Well, yeah, there were BSDs though, so
right.
those were going to be BSDs.
So the Guru ST we had that was coming in, that was our Parent Chronicles ST, was going to handle that. Be
the
like, yeah,
Imperial HST.
yeah, those are going to be gone. He's like, I'm not letting that go by. I'm like, all right, cool. Can we just kill
Now, mind
these
you,
characters?
We had our own hive.
Right.
Like, with his permission, I let Ray build the hive. I built the Gru for the hive.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun doing that, by the way. That was such a cool fucking hive. So
Dude,
it was
the hive was going to be fucking amazing, except nobody bothered to actually go to it.
right.
Except for the one time.
So the idea was that the fetishes are going to be taken back, and then these guys are going to be killed.
This was the plan.
Right. That's what we were going to do. But there had to be a lingo dictionary for the uninitiated.
Hi, Libby! Okay, so mummies are mummies. Fetishes and claves are basically werewolf weapons. Sometimes they have spirits shoved into them.
Mostly they
Sometimes
have
they're just
spirits.
made of silver.
Yeah.
No, claves are actually only just made of silver. That's literally all it takes to have a clave, is it's made of silver. It doesn't even necessarily have to have a spirit in it.
Shit clave! Like shit bow!
Shit, bow.
Shit clave!
All right. Yeah, and then Guru werewolves.
Yeah,
so
Guru werewolves.
the idea
Sabater
was
vampires.
to just kill them because there's really no way to fix this, right? They just got to go. You got to teach a lesson somehow, and this type of stuff literally would get them killed by people knowing they had it on them. So we were going to kill them, and then it started getting degraded to, no, let's just teach them a lesson. Like, how you do that? Well, we're just going to take the items away. What? Their ST is just going to rewrite them.
Another,
Right. They're
Yeah,
just
the
gonna,
ST 's just
they're
gonna
going to
rewrite
take
that
another level 5 occult action and get another one.
Yep. So it was just like, what the fuck? But it was just the dumbest shit I had seen.
I think that was one of the final nails in the coffin for the both of us, was just looking at that going, I
couldn't
No.
fucking believe it. I was like, are you
No.
for real, man? My other favorite was came out of Florida. Remember when all these people found out about the existence of supernatural? Thousands of them?
Oh, the fucking Wailing Wall.
Yep. Something happened in Florida, and this caught a lot of attention, both good and bad, on all the mailing list. An ST in Florida decided there was some sort of like supernatural thing going on with the gauntlet, or not gauntlet, but the shroud, the buried between the living world and the underworld, like
It
the
was
ghosts.
also the gauntlet
And essentially,
and the veil.
thousands of people discovered the existence of supernatural, like vampires
Just
and mages
all at once.
and Guru, just like that. Thousands of people. And we're like, you just broke the masquerade across the world. And the SC's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, you did.
everybody in these towns, they have no friends that live outside the area. Right? This is what you're saying. No, they have no family or friends that live outside this area that they're going to be like, what the you can believe what I just found out is going on, you know? They're not calling parents, they're not calling brothers or sisters or loved ones across the country. You're saying they're all just from this one little area that thousands upon thousands of people found out about. He's like, well, yeah. I'm
There are
like,
no lonely gamers playing World of Warcraft
Dude.
talking to their guild.
come on, man. And so it created this huge argument out of game where we're like, this is stupid. So
Well, and it was across the ST list too, because most of us were like, "Oh,
yeah, this is super fucked up. And so that was a huge problem. But stuff like that would pop up all the time. And then you get
which
stuff.
was the sad part." And then you had New York.
Then you had New York. And we had a saying, friends do not let friends take their characters in New York.
Friends don't like friends go to the East Coast.
East Coast was just a bad place, I agree. But like New York was the
Fucking
center of so
Archbishop.
much dumb shit.
Fucking Archbishop is the stupidest fucking character.
He's dead now, which is good.
True.
But it was just.
However, his Inquisitor friends aren't. They should be.
No, Libby, this was a worldwide organization of networks play.
Game, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times you do get troop games. We were talking about some of those earlier.
Yeah.
But this in particular is a worldwide org. And we do
Yeah, a
say
lot of
worldwide, we
games-
do
there's
mean
games
it. There are
in-
games in Jerusalem.
There's
In
games
Brazil.
in Brazil. There's a
In
bunch
Brazil.
of fucking games in
Yeah,
Brazil.
but
And
the
the-
Brazil
and-
games, oddly enough, they play
They typically
BNS.
keep to themselves. Yeah, they play BNS and they mostly keep to themselves.
I spent 6 months trying to get audience with a prince, pulling all kinds of crazy connections politically as a vizier to get some Assamites the ability to go down there and handle demonic plague, and they just refuse to respond. So I'm like, why are they even in the fucking org? Like, I don't
Right,
understand.
why they're part of the org.
It just didn't make any sense to do it that way. It was just so weird. I mean, so Libby, it sounds cool in theory on paper.
Can be very cool. You
It's
can meet some
really
really
cool.
cool people.
You can meet some cool people, but then you start running into crazy fucking wonky shit. Like crazy shit people shouldn't have. Like we're bitching about Florida and the East Coast, but like the Midwest is known for shit. Like
Well, Midwest is also Wisconsin in particular was known for boot squads.
yep, we would just go places and
big
just
fuck-off
destroy people.
characters. Yeah, that would just travel to places and wreck face.
And the problem
that
That's
was
what we
their
were
version of
supposed to
fun.
do when we were gonna in the Caribbean by Night. You remember this, the game, Ray, where we were gonna join. ST wanted to join the Gravediggers Union,
Yep.
and we went down to Muncie, Indiana. And the original reason was because we were supposed to go down there with our characters and fuck people up to show that I don't know what the fuck we were supposed to show, but the storyteller was an idiot.
Yeah.
And we ended up going down there and role playing because it surprisingly was a game about 20 or 30 people. And we brought, I don't know, there's probably 10 of us, 9 or 10 of us. And these people were actually really good role players. Like we role played the whole time we were down there. We didn't fuck anybody up. There was
no
it was
role
fun.
play.
Yeah,
No,
no, but the storyteller was such a douchebag. Gabriel Angel Knight, you remember him?
No, I remember him. I don't want to think about it, but I remember him. Yeah, there is definitely
Shenanigans
more
is a
room
very nice way to put it, Libby.
for shenanigans. And just outright bullshit sometimes, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wonky.
You see a
just
lot of
hot
it, like you get
garbage.
to experience some of it in character. The second you pull back the curtain, you become an ST. Oh my god!
yeah,
There's a joke about the clave tree. It's not a joke.
the ST side of things in a nationwide org is just crazy. And
It's
then
gotta be a headache to keep track of all that crazy shit.
Oh,
is.
trust me, it is.
and then you got the subcord or coordinator side of things. I was on a subcord team.
DMH and Syndicate. Don't remind me, Russ.
Yeah, I was on a subcord team for Demon the Fallen, and we handled all the infernal shit. And like we were writing some of the packets and getting stuff, trimmed down and making things nice and tidy for like demons and infernalism and Bali, etc. And it was fun being on that team. Don't get me wrong, but I got to see some of the weirdest ideas come across the grapevine, and you're like, "What are you?
What is the point?
Right? Why are we doing this? Like, this is so weird." And then you get
Even
the
just
arms
an
race.
ST, you get the weird, character concepts that you're just like, how are you justifying? What?
Well, it's
Why?
an arms race. What really got me is when we started seeing really behind the scenes, when people started revealing stuff they're not supposed to reveal about different scenes, how they went down. Like we saw blatant cheating on the
Oh
side.
god, that entire fucking scene that came out of the East Coast.
Yeah, we saw blatant cheating, in opinion, about what was going on one side of that argument. Not going to say where, but blatant cheating going on, blatant favoritism going on one side or the other on that scene, and then a lot of just completely inappropriate, out of character relationships. And it's like, what
Oh
the
my
fuck?
god, yes. That
But
was
that-
fucking
But that pales in comparison to the sheer bullshit on people's sheets that they were throwing down. It was just
No doubt.
crazy stuff, dude. Like, I'm bidding 50 traits on ties because I have all these fucking fetishes and all this crazy shit, and the spirit's helping me, and I got blah, 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 blah. It's like, what the fuck? Like, as Jonathan, my Zamitsi, I was pretty baller. Like, I can handle most shit. At least that's what I
yeah.
thought, until I realized people were like, yeah, we have fucking, Potter Schlachta, and we have like 30 fucking physical traits. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, horde form, I got what, 22? Like, what the shit's going on here?
I brought my Vizad today.
Crazy shit. And then it's like, people who have blood magic are like, yeah, you can try to kill me. You won't. Well, why not? Well, the moment you hit me with X amount of damage, I immediately teleport back home. What? Yeah, what ritual does that? This ritual stacked with this ritual, combined with this ritual, modified with this ritual, and that's what does it. Why do you even have that? Like, seriously, dude? Like, what the fuck?
Well, there's a level 5 ritual. Like, it has nothing to do with damage, but anytime shit gets hairy, it's
Escape to a true friend.
Escape to a true
But
friend,
you have to
right,
be
where
inside
you
a circle to do
detonate-
it.
Yeah.
You actually have to make a ritual circle for all this shit.
Right.
And then there's just...
No, I'm aware. I'm just saying
Yeah.
there's ways to do it, but that's...
Yeah. It's
not
just
that way.
it's just fucking crazy. Seeing like org level play just goes way out the bag. But so does troop.
I thought I was getting a little crazy when I took Psychic Double.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
And there's definitely troop games that are just as fucking wonky.
yep. And that's what makes it really weird, because it's hard to... I like playing. I like playing Vampire. I enjoy live action role play. However, I don't like the environment out here for it.
Yeah, no.
We have MES, which is one shade of bad, which they don't even have a Chicago game, this Chronicle, which makes me laugh. Because we got fucked by a couple people in that org so bad. So I kind of feel it's like poetic that they don't have a game.
Yeah, the same person that had the Humanity 5 La Sombra Inquisitor.
No, that wasn't Brazos.
I thought, oh no,
That was
no,
our
you're
Tremere
right. That was-
person from... Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
other one.
Yep. So, yeah, our Shadow Baby is what it was called. People thought it was cute. It's a Shadow Baby. No, it's something that shouldn't exist. It should die. But, yeah, we had MES, which was
Something
just
that
a
if I
shit
were playing
show.
La
Really?
Sombra would be dead.
There's only one baby I know of, and that baby's name is Toy, and he's in Montreal. And he's in the fucking book. Like, he's
Yep.
a canon character. And they
Um,
did the Sabat pack. He's got no arms and no legs. He's a little fucking armless Samedi. And they take him around in a baby cart. And when people go to look at him, they push their face into him so he can start chewing on their face. It's a Sabat game for them. It's ridiculous, but it's funny.
I love this conversation.
Anyways, I
No,
digress. Go
no,
ahead.
you're good. You got MES on one end, which is just a shit show and just a dumpster fire.
And so many clicks.
Well, yeah, and that's what really kind of ruins that entire org. Like, people make their friends in higher positions so they can't ever get in trouble. Like, we had that blatantly shown to us.
Oh yeah.
So that
Like
happened.
16 ways from fucking Sunday.
That happened, and then in OWBN, you have the Old Boys Club that just runs everything. On
Yeah,
console.
I mean, it's changed members a few times.
Yeah, but it's still the same. Like you still have the same type of thing, and then the same people in every area are playing in the same games, and the same people
and
are
they're
as
basically
team.
playing the same fucking character.
Right, and it's just like, if, for example, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Chicago. Oh, I don't really vibe with any of the people in Chicago. I want to play this game still. I'm going to go play another game. I'm going to go to Milwaukee and play. And then you're like, oh, look, it's the same
It's the
fucking
same
people. And it's just like, no. But my favorite what the fuck that I've always run into in org play really is the biggest culprit here, is the cute girl that is friends with everybody, so nobody's ever going to do anything to their characters, and how dare you attack them. We
No matter
have
what they say they're doing game.
we have one person that drives me up a fucking wall in OWN. I'm not going to say her name because COC. Not that I give a shit, but still, try to be nice. It starts with not A, B, not A, not B, not C, but maybe a letter after that. And I cannot fucking stand her because every character she plays exactly the same way. It's whiny, sarcastic, and if you call her out, she loses her temper and gets upset because you're bullying her. It's like, but you're being a bitch, and I'm playing a character that doesn't take that. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you the same way you're talking to me, but you're going to have a what the fuck, or feel bullied, or for some reason, she'll have this bullshit stuff on her sheet where it's just like, I have unstoppable stuff. Like, how'd you get that? Like, how does somebody like you play the same character everywhere and not get your shit stomped in on a regular basis to get this shit? And you find out they're friends with all these fucking SDs and shit. Like, oh, come on, man.
Yep.
Come on, man. You should be dead 5 ways from Sunday. Or you get the old players who have characters that are 15 years old that never put them to bed.
Yeah. Well, my character story's not over. All right, well, are you going after God now? Like, is that where we're fucking at? Listen, Cappadocious, you need to fucking put that to bed already.
Make it an NPC, man. Like, I
Right.
move and shake on a national level. Cool. Are you actually doing anything that changes the game? Well, no. Make an NPC.
Yep.
Play something different, man.
Start something new.
Or
Yeah.
just be around as a mentor and leave it alone.
At that point, make an NPC. Like in all reality, if it's just a mentor, then, play as an NPC occasionally whenever you're requested to, and then just fucking move to something else. I don't see the appeal of these massive characters that don't do anything.
Setite that can turn into a totem. They have that. His name is Set.
It's
He is a totem, actually.
It just makes no sense. When a character can walk into a game and just warp genre because nobody can stop them, and the STs can't even make NPCs powerful enough to stop them because of bylaws, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just what I'm saying.
True.
That's just what I'm saying on that. And that's just nuts to me. That's my biggest horror story. That bullshit. Both of those.
I
Those are
mean,
the biggest.
Then you also have the what the fuck moments of things that just shouldn't be, i.e., the Prince of Chicago for about 2.5, 3 years being a Bahari, pretty much openly.
Yeah,
No one did anything about it.
that's the type of things where you think an Archon would step in.
You would think, or a Justicar, except the Justicar is actually the one who gave her that position.
Yeah, that's some of our horror stories. Some of our crazy shit we've seen and dealt with in LARP. So
Definitely not all of them, but
yeah,
some
we'll
of them for
we'll
sure.
see. I don't know what we'll talk about next week. I'm gonna think of something, brainstorm some ideas. We'll see. We've talked about creepy World of Darkness stuff. We've talked now about LARP stuff.
We talked about STing and consent.
Yep. So we've got some pretty good topics that have come down. So we'll see what we're gonna talk about next week. But until the next time we go, which will definitely be next Thursday, we'll see you guys later. All right. See ya.